You may have seen their faces on TV. You may have read their name in the newspaper. But who are Canada's federal leaders? This is a beginner's guide to Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, and Jagmeet Singh. Today, we're going to check out their various Wikipedia pages, watch some clips on their YouTube channel, and I will try to explain to you in the most basic terms that I can who these federal leaders are. Okay, I got all these cats here, so I'm sorry if there's any background noise. I'm going to try and be as objective as I can here. Full disclosure, I don't really support any of these jokers. I think they all have their pros and their cons. We're going to be starting out with Justin Trudeau, probably one of the most famous Canadians. He has been Prime Minister of Canada for the last, I guess 9 years now, because it's 2024. He was first elected in 2015. I got his Wikipedia page here. Was he born on December 25th? He's a Christmas baby. I didn't know that. December 25th, 1971. Very interesting. He was born in the Canadian version of the White House, 24 Sussex. His father, Papa Trudeau, aka Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Now, Trudeau grew up in Montreal. He pursued, university and career. Bachelor's of Arts in Literature from McGill, which is the English Language University in Montreal. He then went on to get an education degree. Famously, the Conservatives like to call Trudeau a drama teacher. In reality, he was just a teacher. He taught a variety of different subjects, but they like to kind of pigeonhole him into being a drama teacher. If we start talking about the political scene, what does it say? Trudeau first came on the scene in 2008, it looks like. Prime Minister Stephen Harper called an election on October 14th, 2008, by which time Trudeau was campaigning in Papineau. So Papineau is a riding in Quebec, which is one of the provinces here in Canada, and that is the seat that Trudeau holds to this day. He got the leadership in 2013, and his first federal election was in 2015. This was a big historic event in Canadian politics. If you look at the prime ministers of Canada across the history of Canada, it has always been conservative, liberal, conservative, liberal, conservative, liberal. What happened in 2015 is that the Liberals were actually in third place, and because of Justin Trudeau's charisma and his name and the whole branding that the Liberals ran in 2015, they actually catapulted them from their third place status to first place. And Trudeau was awarded his first and only majority government in 2015. Ever since then, Trudeau has run two other elections, the election of 2019, and then most recently, the election of 2021. Both of those elections awarded him minority governments, meaning that he had to form coalitions in order to stay in power. Most recently, there is a formal coalition between the NDP and Liberal Party called the Supply and Confidence Agreement, I believe is the official name of it. Anywho, Trudeau is a big name in Canada, obviously being the prime minister, but even before that, there's definitely a little bit of nepotism or a political dynasty, I guess you could say, unfolding. Trudeau is a name that kind of is in the same caliber as the Clintons or the Kennedys, kind of just these political families where you had the parents govern and now the kids are governing and so on and so forth. What else to say about good old Trudeau? I guess what he's known for mostly is his social policies. So he represents the Liberal Party and liberalism, definitely open diversity. He has a very open immigration policy, open to people of all walks of life, regardless of your sexuality or your background or your creed or the language that you speak. That's kind of the mantra of the Liberals. His tagline that he's kind of beat to death at this point is diversity is our strength. On the critics, people see him as a trust fund baby. They see him as somebody who never really had a real job, who is just kind of got where he is because of his name and his hair. That's what his critics will tell you. Let's watch a YouTube clip. Sounds like a good time for that. I'm going to put my headphones on here so I can actually hear what's going on. And we'll just kind of listen to their intros.
Hey everyone, I'm here in my office on Parliament Hill, which is where I get a lot of work done, where I hold a lot of meetings. Just a few steps away is the House of Commons, which is where we have debates, we pass legislation, we talk about the issues of the day, I answer questions from the opposition during question period, and a lot of work gets done. But there's a lot going on in politics. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of it, which is why we're launching this YouTube channel. This will be an opportunity for you to see some of the things that we're doing and hear about why we're doing it. C'est une opportunité de voir ce qu'on est en train de faire en chambre, pourquoi on est en train de le faire, répondre directement à vos questions et être engagé sur des enjeux qui vous tiennent à cœur. Alors, revenez régulièrement parce que je vais partager plusieurs des vidéos comme ça. And as we all know on YouTube, really important, don't forget to subscribe and we'll talk soon.
J'ai oublié. Justin Trudeau, c'est un Québécois. Il parle français. Très bien. So Trudeau is kind of the Quebec politician. I think I mentioned that he represents Papineau. And yeah, you hear him a little bit in French in there. Trudeau is probably the most comfortable with switching back and forth just because he does have that experience living and working in Montreal. Trudeau is one of these Canadian figures who you either love him or you hate him. So I guess that kind of gave you a base. If you've honestly never heard about him, that kind of is the very basics, but we could always go into more detail. Let's jump over to Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre is the official opposition. So where we have Justin Trudeau is the prime minister, Pierre Poilievre sits across from him in Parliament and represents the official opposition. He is also the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. So we'll just look at kind of the dates here. He was born 1979. That excites me. I'm also a June baby. He's a fellow Gemini. That's very interesting. Pierre Poilievre is known for his campaign Axe the Tax. He is one of these old school fiscal conservatives. He's concerned about the debt. He's concerned about the tax. He's concerned about government bureaucracy and all of these sorts of things. He came up during the Harper administration, actually earlier than that. So that's kind of the funny thing about Poilievre. He has built this whole brand around him that he's kind of a working guy, an average Joe, but he's a career politician. That is the one thing that I constantly remind people who are a fan of Poilievre. This guy's been in Parliament since 2004, so that's 20 years. He was a cabinet minister under the Harper administration. So Stephen Harper was prime minister between 2006 and 2015. So Poilievre was definitely part of that crew. Not too much to say about Poilievre because he's kind of flew under the radar. Until recently, he's kind of, when he underwent his leadership contest. Something to say about the Conservatives. They've gone through 3 leaders trying to beat Trudeau. They had Andrew Scheer, and then they had Aaron O'Toole. And now Pierre Poilievre is kind of the third contender in this line of Conservatives that have all gone up against Trudeau. Andrew Scheer and Aaron O'Toole both lost. And therefore, Poilievre, third time the charm, trying to dethrone Trudeau. And then, yes, talks about the 2022 leadership campaign. That was when he really burst onto the scene. He won with 60% of the vote. So he completely destroyed all of his rivals who were running against him. Usually in leadership debates, they need multiple rounds and they kind of wean people in and wean people out. Poilievre won in the first round decisively. Talking about candidates who blew their rivals out of the water, I should mention that Trudeau as well, when he was part of his leadership campaign in 2013, he won by 80%, some crazy margin like that as well. So there are parallels between Trudeau and Poilievre for sure. I guess all that to say, relatively unknown, but is poised to take over the government. If an election was held tomorrow, many Canadians would go with Pierre Poilievre. This is not so much of a pro of Poilievre, but mostly because the country is just so dissatisfied with Trudeau. And this is very common for Canadians. As they say, we kind of go back and forth between conservative and liberal. Trudeau has been in power for, coming up on 9 years now. So it's kind of around the time that we would be shifting over to a conservative government. And it's going to be interesting if Poilievre is able to kind of keep this momentum going. He has a lot of momentum right now. If he'll still have that momentum in 2025, which is the next scheduled election, we're going to see how this guy actually governs. But right now, he is kind of just an attack dog. A lot of people would characterize him as that. His rivals and his critics would just categorize him as a guy with a big mouth and just an attack dog. Pardon my French here, but there is an expression that says, any asshole can kick down a barn. It takes a true carpenter to build one. And that's really kind of the camp where a lot of people see Poilievre. He's going around kicking down a lot of barns, but does he have the skill to build one? Well, only time will tell, really. Now, here is Meet Pierre Poilievre.
Who is Pierre Poilievre? Many know him as the common sense leader the country needs. His schoolteacher parents know him as the boy they adopted and raised in their modest home in the suburbs of Calgary. His dad knows him as the son he took to early morning hockey games. His neighbors know him as the boy who used to deliver the morning newspaper. His children know him in Francais, Espanol, and English as Papa. And I know him as a guy who loves me for who I am, a Canadian who came to call Canada home, and his wife. So when Pierre says, it doesn't matter who you know or where you're from, but rather who you are and where you're going, these aren't just empty words. He's lived it. Common sense. Let's bring it home.
That was a better intro video. That Trudeau one was kind of just him talking about the channel. That was actually a little bit of a bio of, that he grew up in Calgary, played a little hockey as a kid. It was narrated by his wife. That was definitely more of a personal touch. Lastly, we got Jagmeet Singh. He is the leader of the New Democratic Party here in Canada, also known as the NDP. This is the left-wing political party. So Jagmeet Singh, born in Ontario, January 1979. They're all kind of born around the same time period. So he was born in Ontario. He spent time in Newfoundland as well. He has grandparents from India, so there's kind of the connection to India there with him. Singh is Sikh. Normally, I wouldn't bring up his religion, but it is quite historic that Jagmeet is the first person of color to be the leader of a national political party in Canada. He was a lawyer, and then he started working in provincial politics in 2011. So he was involved in the Ontario provincial politics in Ontario, ran a couple different campaigns, and then became the leader of the federal NDP in 2017. Here's my other knock with Singh, because, again, we got to criticize everybody, right? When the Conservatives went up against Trudeau and lost, they resigned. Like I said earlier, Aaron O'Toole and Andrew Scheer, they're still members of parliament, but they're not leaders of their party anymore. Singh has lost a couple elections now, at least two. When did it say he came into power? 2017. So yeah, he lost the election of 2019. He lost the election of 2021. The NDP as a party, though, still wants him. They actually just voted earlier this year. They had a leadership review, and he passed with outstanding numbers for some reason. In terms of policy, I like to think of Jagmeet Singh as the Care Bear, because he's all about dental care, pharmacare, and child care. Any kind of these government socialized programs, Jagmeet Singh is probably a fan of it. We got Jagmeet Singh is on your side. It's the name of the video.
In my 20s, my father fell really ill. As a result, my mom had to take care of him. It made me really sensitive to those difficulties that people around me were facing. And it also made me feel this sense of responsibility that it wasn't enough to just take care of myself. It wasn't enough to just take care of my family, but I felt this responsibility, this desire to want to take care of everyone around me. Because if we're connected, then those folks that are sharing the same struggles that I'm facing, if we were lifted up, that we would all be doing well together. As beautiful as our country is, and as amazing as a place it is to live in, there's still too many people that feel like they're stuck, and more importantly, they feel like they don't belong. They feel like they're not being valued. And I feel like we can do better. I know we can do better. What would our world look like where everyone was celebrated, where everyone belonged? How much better would life be? How much better would our society be? That world is possible, and I want to build it together.
So that did a good job of actually, take my headphones off here. That did a good job of kind of explaining his background, but also explaining the NDP philosophy really well. I found that, where we watched Poilievre's video, that was mostly kind of a biopic about him. Trudeau kind of was just introducing his channel. This was more of an intro to both Singh and the NDP as a party. Probably the best video out of all three of them. But anyway, those are our three lovely leaders. There's a lot of information about these guys online. You can go to their specific websites, the Liberal.ca, the Conservative Party of Canada, as well as the New Democratic Party of Canada. Check out their websites. They have their own YouTube pages that we were just on. They have political party YouTube pages. There's a lot of information out there, those of you willing to look for it. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. I know we kind of were a little bit of tongue-in-cheek today, being a politician though, and if you're going to put your name out there and you're going to run and be political, you got to have a little bit of a thick skin. So I hope if you were a fan of any of these guys who I just kind of insulted here, just know it's out of jest. To wrap things up, Justin Trudeau, the Liberal leader and current Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the official opposition, as well as the Conservative Party, and lastly, Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP. These three guys are kind of the main faces of Canadian federal politics. There are others, as I mentioned, and we can kind of go into other characters, and I will introduce you to other characters within the Canadian scene in future videos. My name is Clinton. Like and subscribe if you liked the content you saw, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.